You want Ricky on now?
Yeah, that's fine.
That'd be better.
How's everyone doing out there? This is Dan Wallace back with you. Is my mic a little high? Yeah, I think it is. Oh, there we go. Oh, now it's a little low,
Well,
maybe.
we don't know about that.
Yeah, we don't know. Let's see what they have to
check what
say.
everybody says. I can always pump the volume in our
SJD. Wait. What's the new handle? I see SJD. Does that mean that San Jose is still out there?
Hi, good. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know when you hit a ball in one pocket and you float a ball down to the end rail right behind another one and you snuggle it in there and you have absolutely no chance on the shot after that. I've never seen anyone do that better than San Jose Dick.
Really?
Ever. Unbelievably. His speed control and touch was so great on that shot, and it's such a powerful shot to play if the option is available. It's unbelievable.
Well, where is San Jose Dick now? Is he dead?
No, he was here on the chat.
Okay, I was going to say, you're talking
Yeah.
about it like.
He was here on the chat earlier. Absolutely.
All right. Sweet. Well,
SJD, and a number. That's what he had there. So, West Virginia road players, say that again. Because I couldn't be heard, or because you want me to repeat my comment?
hey, Fast Teddy. We get to look at Big Arm John here, Strong Arm John. Strong Arm's one of those guys who you know why he gets his name. Big Arm John. And most people don't realize what he does.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll answer road players' question. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Big Arm John plays softball.
Mm-hmm.
His team has actually won the World Series of softball. And at the same time, very same year, he's 61, and he just recently had a heart attack, by the way. But the same year, his team won the senior gold at the Olympics. So he's a tremendous softball player. Most people don't know that about John. Anyway.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a natural athlete.
Yeah, definitely.
For 61, he's in great shape.
Your partners need some volume.
Do I need some volume? Huh?
Yeah, maybe a little
How's
bit.
my volume now, folks? Am I kicking it?
All right, so let me answer an earlier question where I was asked to elucidate the shot I was talking about from San Jose Dick. When it comes to killing a ball in one pocket, short rail, bottom of the bottom of the table tactics. So if your cue ball was sitting about, I don't know, even with that 2, and you needed to hit an object ball on the opposite side of the table and stop it directly behind a ball that was on the end rail. Just let it float down there and freeze.
Right.
Dick could do that. I don't know. He'd freeze you on the ball 3 times out of 4. It was unbelievable. Didn't matter what the angle was or what the distance was. Being able to just knock the ball down to the end rail behind something that was intervening. He wouldn't just put it down there where you had something you could tap and play safe. He'd freeze it. It was unbelievable, over and over and over.
How was Derby? We still got another day and a half left here, folks.
Yeah, that's right.
Derby's still going on.
And as I said earlier, the 2 prime days are the last day and the day everyone arrives. Those are the 2 prime days. The ones in between, you have too many guys in action. In the tournament. You have too many guys in the tournament. They're worried about getting their sleep and showing up on time. So tomorrow night, and we'll see what happens. You're welcome, West Virginia Road player.
We can't see where everybody's at. Where'd Strong Arm John go?
He's still in there.
I hear him.
There he is, right on the left, yeah.
He's in the
Just beyond the view of the camera. On mic. Yeah. Thank you, Kenny Mascot. Not just me here, it's J.R. Calvert also. Thank you, Mascot.
Thank you, Mascot.
Who is the best player that y'all have ever seen play? Husker Cobb 74S. That's tough. Are we talking about overall or a discipline? I mean, I think I readily have answers for that, but I need to know if you mean overall or discipline. Sean 2003, Buddy Hall, well, that's tough to argue with. He plays awful good.
Well, that would have been my immediate answer.
Right out of the gate, I would have chosen Varner.
I think there's a lot of people that just yell out Reyes. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Anything, it's Reyes automatically. And actually, I don't know whether that's the truth.
I'm not sure it is. Hall impresses me. Like I said, my choice is probably Varner. as an all-around player. But do we have a discipline you were asking about? Overall, there it is. Yeah. Well, then I have to choose Varner.
I think. Yeah. I don't think that there's anybody else besides Varner that plays all the games as strong as he does. And he's a bulldog.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, man. I mean, he's going to grind it out. He's going to find a way to win. He's going to keep you from winning and not even try and win. He might do that for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just to keep you from winning.
I've felt it. I felt the pressure of that. In my day, I was known as a one-pocket gambler, and I've played Varner a couple of times, gambling at one pocket, and man, it took him a while, but ultimately I lost quite a bit. And then really, I think I said this the other night. I'll repeat it now, just in case we have new visitors. That in the 5 major disciplines, 9-ball, 8-ball, straight pool, bank pool, and one pocket. If you want to enter anyone into any one of those tournaments, any of them, and say automatically that player is one of the favorites, well, Varner fits that bill.
Sure.
He's automatically one of the favorites in all of those. Reyes would not be a favorite in bank pool. He would not be a favorite in straight pool, even though he could get there. Siegel, of course, would not be a favorite in bank pool or one pocket. Buddy Hall. Let's see, bank pool. How was his 8-ball game? How was Buddy's 8-ball game? It was pretty good, wasn't it?
That's one thing that I can say that I've never really experienced. I think he played some World Series of pool
I don't know either.
stuff back in the early 80s and late 70s. Gary Pinkowski stuff. I'm not even sure that was 8-ball or 9-ball. That was before my time. But I do know that Buddy has won 8-ball tournaments. I just don't know what caliber of 8-ball tournaments they were. And another interesting point, just to back up your claim, is, and one of the things that I was going to base it upon, is Varner's the only player to have world titles in the major disciplines.
Yeah,
all of them.
Right.
So, it's arguable to say that he's the number one choice in that department.
What was Mosconi's best discipline? There's no question that he was first and foremost a straight pool player.
Exactly.
The quality of his knowledge at straight pool allowed him to play many other games very well. Possibly as the best in the world, but it's tough to rate because in his era, straight pool is what decided good players. And there's no question he was incredibly dominant.
Well, I think if you just had 9-ball, bank pool, and one pocket, you have to throw Shannon Dalton into that category. Because he's arguably somebody that
Definitely, yes.
If you expand it, with straight pool, suddenly I'm starting to say Shannon has a waiver right there as far as that title would go. And Shannon's a great player. I mean, it's just that he's not proven as a straight pool player, and that's what I'm saying is it's hard to say that, I saw Shannon Dalton run 300 balls and he wasn't in the straight pool event. He's not in straight pool events because I don't think he plays that game.
In fact, I don't. Yeah. Well, that I agree with entirely.
So you got Buddy, you got Nick, and I think Nick edges them out just because he's got the proven titles.
I agree with that. And the straight pool. There's no question that Buddy is a great straight pool player. I think that Nick is a notch higher than Buddy is at straight pool.
Well, I'll give you an idea how I think that would work. Buddy would try to run out and make balls and do it right, Nick would make sure he would never make a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Jeremy Jones is a good all-around player. Eddie Reyes, 28.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, he is. I have what I refer to as specialists and pool players. And when I say someone is just a pool player, what I mean is guys like John Schmidt or Mike Siegel or Nick Varner who simply understand, or Efren Reyes, who simply understand how the balls work. And it really doesn't matter what the game is. They figure out very quickly, and even on their own sometimes. And then you have people who are specialists in the game that they play. I don't think Scott Frost would be upset at me for saying that he is a one-pocket specialist. I mean, Jack Cooney, one-pocket specialist, played well. But you have people who are specialists for sure. Yeah, I had this question the other day. Alan Hopkins? Yeah. We talked about this 2 days ago. We were on the chat together, Alvin and I. Alvin is sitting right next to me. Alvin and I were on the chat together when someone brought up Alan Hopkins. Of course. Phenomenal all-around player. You can't fault the man.
You know, if we were putting check marks besides the games that we knew that he could play, I can guarantee you that he plays straight bull and 9-ball in one pocket. But I don't know that he plays bank pool.
Yeah, I don't think Hopkins was a bank pool player. 8-ball, no question.
No question that he plays 8-ball.
Yeah, absolutely. But bank pool, no. But so I still give Nicky the title.
Now, Mizrak, one of our viewers, Cool Cat, 58, had brought up Mizrak. Mizrak, we know that he's got U.S. Open straight pool titles, and we know that he's won 9-ball titles professionally. But I don't know exactly, and I used to tour with Mizrak from time to time. We do exhibitions here and there, right? Mm-hmm. But not too many, but it wasn't as if I didn't know Steve's game. And one of the things that I would say is he played a little bit of one pocket, but it wasn't like he was stealing if he played Hopkins. You know what I mean? You know, and it wasn't like he didn't want to, I guess the best way to say it is he played a lot of games great, but he wasn't, known as a one pocket player.
Very
he was
true.
known as a
Very
straight
true.
pool player.
Yes.
For that reason. Oh, easy bank. Jimmy Reed, there's one for you. 9-ball winner. Played, he's a bulldog, grinder. Would he fall into the category of greatest player I've ever seen play? Only thing I can say about that is Jimmy was fallible. He would miss balls. He would
definitely
make mistakes.
Yes, right.
And it would be hard to put him into that category because of that, because of his consistency at times. I like Jimmy.
Stevie Cook, good answer.
There's another one for you.
Nice answer. I just had something, but I lost it. So we'll continue with the stream.
Guys that would make the list that would play good in all categories. I mean, we pretty much named who we think is number one.
Yeah,
you go back through all the greats like, the Strickland, Siegel, Rempe's, Hoppy, all them. That's why they're greats. They played all the games great.
Absolutely, yeah. Interestingly, speaking to a lot of old-time straight pool players, guys who saw a lot of the greats play, the question when I say who's the greatest straight pool player who ever lived, Mosconi has all the titles. It's an easy thing. But talking to the guys who have witnessed the quality of play, more often than not, I get Mizrak. In that period where he won 4 U.S. Opens in a row. And it's always surprising I get that answer, but I get it a lot from a lot of the old timers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, they would certainly know. I mean, we're witnessing the rebirth of straight pool. So
Exactly
it isn't
right.
like we all
yeah.
know great straight pool players. We might as well be bar box players sitting here, coming in from the local pub and saying, what do we know about this game? I mean, we know very little in comparison to what they knew about that game.
Fast Teddy 1 says, I'll take Greenleaf. Again, that's a generational comparison thing. That you really can't compare how Greenleaf played versus how Moscone played, versus how Mizrak played, versus how Siegel played. It's so tough because the equipment changes dramatically over that period of time. So I understand that Moscone said that Greenleaf was the best, and he learned a lot from him. But then the game progresses. So where do you draw the line? How do you judge that? I don't know.
Well, an interesting point is how old is the game of straight pool?
Well, the game of straight pool was invented of actual 14-1 was about
Jerome
1911.
Jerome Kehoe
Yeah.
invented it in 19 and teens. I think it was 1911, 1918, somewhere in there.
Right, yeah, in that range.
He
Was
actually
it?
played and won a lot of the championships.
Yep.
Greenleaf would come by a decade and a half later.
Yeah.
Well, a decade almost. And so you have to say, wow, he won his titles when the game was new, but he could run these balls. Okay, great. But, the game there's been, tons of geniuses playing this game now for 100 years. And 80, since, Greenleaf's heyday, there's a lot of moves that need to be learned and so forth. But what I'm getting at is that, maybe that's not fair. It's apples and oranges to, sit back and say, what Moscone did 50 years later was the same, or 40 years later was the same as what Greenleaf did. You could dominate because maybe there was only 70 guys that played the game well. Now there's hundreds.
And equipment also.
That's the other point I was going to make is we went from clay balls to phenolic resin.
And 10-foot tables to 9-foot tables. I mean, almost all of Greenleaf's professional career was spent on 10-foot tables with shag carpet. And almost all of Moscone's professional career, the professional career that we know him for, was spent on 9-foot tables with much finer cloth for the era. So, yeah, you gotta. That's where we're talking that you really can't compare properly through the generations.
Right.
Because so many things change. But here I am, in my standard way, not making friends. Okay, I gotta say it. I do. If straight pool was still the major competitive game, I think that the players today would be better than the players of the past, but I don't think that they are at this point. I have seen too many good patterns run by players from, let's say, 1985 and before. I've seen beautiful patterns run that don't even exist today. And I'm not sure why. But the runs aren't that much different. And I think that if straight pool was the big game, shot making would take less precedence and pattern play would be predominant again. But I think modern straight pool is largely based on just shot making.
Well, I'll give you, for instance, today we watched a straight pool match, and I'm not going to get into naming names.
No.
We watched 4 innings, 4 table appearances end in a miss. And the score was 70 to 25, 35, something like that. And I sat back and I said, not everybody's going to, not every trip to the table warrants that you should run 50 or 60 balls.
Of course.
But I sat here and I thought, what would that have been perceived like 50 years ago? What would have been that performance? Were these guys monsters, or are we looking at the fact that they were actually just somebody who would have been a good draw in a tournament? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I've never seen the greats play an actual event. We can talk about high runs. That's something different.
It is different. That's not actual straight pool competition.
That's like saying, you know what? I'm the best gunfighter because I hit the targets in target practice better than anybody else.
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely, irrelevant to the situation. And what I'm saying is, who's the best overall player is dependent on how you play in battle. And whether that battle be tournament or money. There's differences there too. But what I'm getting at is, we can sit here and talk about guys like Cranfield who used to run 200 balls daily. I mean, world champion,
great player.
Great player, the whole bit. But, does he deserve to go into that realm of being the greatest player of all time? No. Does he go into greatest players of straight pool? He has a chance. Let's talk about his tournaments then.
You're right.
I'm just saying that's a prerequisite. That's a line on a resume that, kind of gets you into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The guy just takes up the whole screen.
Siegel asked Crane to play once. Crane ran 200. Oh, yeah, that's true. I think that's a true story, isn't it?
What's that?
That Siegel asked Crane to play once. Crane ran 200 and played safe. I've heard that story also. Is that true?
I don't know. I can't verify that. I don't know anybody that was there.
I've heard it a few times from multiple different sources. I think it may be true. Ran 200 and played safe, and through Crane's safety play, earned the shot and ran 93 more or something like that. I don't know. So, but I've heard that story a few times. I'm not sure if they all come from the same source.
Yeah, hearing the story, that's half of it. But, isn't that what they call an urban legend?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Little Mikey died from eating Pop Rocks and Pepsi. What I'm saying is if you repeat a story, to 3 or 4 people and they repeat it, it can become folklore and then legend and go into the history books. And, since I didn't see it, I can't verify, I can't confirm or nor deny. I'm just saying, that's the situation we're in with that story. Would be interesting to know, though. I mean, Mike's alive. He can tell you.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how I'd verify that story. It would be interesting to know.
Bar player, urban legend is Varner being the best. We don't mean in just straight pool. We're talking about all-around players. That's not an urban legend. That possibly is correct.
Well, it's open for discussion. It's our
It is.
opinion.
It is. I'm just saying
Just
it's
like
possibly
their
correct.
opinion. Hey, we can all shoot each other's opinions full of holes. We're just sitting here
Absolutely.
having a good time on a Friday night, watching some guys bet a little bit, play a little one hole.
Well,
That's
now
all
how
we're
about
doing.
absolutely? Well, now can I move on with the? Can I continue with the straight pool stream or?
Please do.
All right. Let's see. The most balls per inning in World Championships. I think Mizarek has that title at like 35 and a half. 35.6, something like that. He beat Mosconi. He was the first man and only man to beat Mosconi. And he won 4 years in a row for the U.S. Open title at straight pool in double elimination format.
Yeah, he didn't have round robin.
He didn't have round robin. Mosconi won all those titles in round robin. And 4 years in a row, double elimination format, Mizarek won. And he also beat the balls per round title. Guy was fantastic. Incredible. I was answering a question that came up a long time ago there, but I remembered it because it bothered me. I was like, wait a minute.
Right. You know, and let's get into how flimsy everything is here for a conversation, just so everybody can understand this is just conversation. Great. How do you define great? We could get into that.
Yeah, that's
Is
true.
it high points? Is it consistency? Is it, what people, revere as great, or is it just something that we want to say, can't be quantified? It can only be felt. I don't know.
Ganesh says, watch Steve Mizarek versus Steve Davis straight pool and snooker challenge. Steve Mizarek was possibly the best snooker player that the U.S. has ever produced. I have never watched that, so I don't know where it comes out at. But Dan, who is the best you would bet your money on? Efren Reyes.
Yeah.
If I have to put my money on anybody, it's got to be him.
Well, it goes back to me for, look, we're gonna pick 3 or 4 greats. We're gonna have Buddy Hall, Nick Varner, Efren Reyes.
Yeah, that's a good assortment. I like that. I might put Siegel in there, but I don't know who to displace.
Yeah, Irving Crane was just a machine. 4 decades of winning a world title at some point. I mean, and that's the 30s, 40s, 50s, or was it the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s? No, it was the 60s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s.
His title was 67, I believe. He beat Luther Lassiter in
No, he won.
1967 for the world title in straight pool.
I thought he won in 72.
Did he? Might have been. It was, honestly, it was, I know it sounds funny, but our first magazine, Irving Crane had passed, and we did an article on him. And it's a blur to me now. It's stuff that I would have told you 10 years ago, and I knew it. But now I just can't. But yeah,
I wish I'd met the man.
He did have 4 decades that he won a world.
He did in a row, yeah.
Is that 1966 that Crane goes 150 and out?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I thought it was
No, not on
67.
Lassiter, on Joe Balsas.
Joe Balsas,
Yeah.
the meat man. Yeah, Crane.
Also was runner-up 13 times. Ronnie Mitchell, that's a good point about how good is a player versus his generation. If you have someone like Mosconi lording over you, it's like Sampras and Agassi. How good would Agassi have been if he didn't have Sampras stymieing him all the way? He would have been huge. And it's the same thing with Irving Crane. Irving Crane was one of the greatest players the game's ever seen. He doesn't get his due because Mosconi was winning those titles.
All right. That's a good point.
Who is the best 10-ball player right now, 2012?
Oh, well, I think everybody's going to go with SPB there.
I think that's no question.
Well, he's got the break stroke right now. He's
Yeah.
figured out that stroke that makes the balls pop in.
I mean, I can't even speak to that intelligently because I think it's that obvious. And I don't know what he's doing to make it that way. But he's doing it. So,
I know what he does that seems funny to me. He seems like he decelerates through the break.
he looks that way, doesn't he?
It looks like he
Like
pulls
it's
up and
holding
then
up.
he just tries to slow down during the break.
It's like a lackadaisical sweep.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure what's happening there, but he gets a great spread and the ball goes in. I don't know what that.
I used to do a little bit of that with 9-ball. I'd pull all the way back and I'd just let it come through, but I really wouldn't power it. It was just motion. It was
All right.
never any power. And if I tried to power it, I lost that certain action. And you could only do it without adding power. It's kind of like trying to walk slow. You know what I mean? And keeping your feet in the air real slow. You can't do it too slow. So you just pull up and you pull it out and let it run through real
All
smooth.
right.
No other way I can put it. Good old Earl.
What do we? Took home the most money. Okay, new topic. Which pro player, dead or alive, took home the most money? Which pro player specifically?
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I can't say Don Willis
Right.
because he wasn't a pro. So Lassiter? I might go with Lassiter.
Well, I have to ask, does the pro necessarily have to make this money as a professional, or can he make it on the side?
Oh, no, that's what I meant. I thought it involved the side. Do you mean professional pool exclusively or gambling also?
Gambling also is what I was thinking we were going to include.
With gambling also, I go with Lassiter. Or Tugboat Whaley. I might go with Tugboat.
Tugboat was pretty good, yeah.
One of the greatest hustlers who's ever lived. So if you're talking money and tournaments, Tugboat did so well. I might go with him. I'm not sure. And Jack Rooney. No, Jack Cooney.
Jack Cooney.
Jack Cooney, yeah.
You know, he's our modern day, bet high.
Yeah, Jack Cooney. That's good.
He is in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
for a reason.
Now we got a lot of posts streaming in here.
What's the topic?
What about Flyboy? Jimmy Spears. Got him out
Oh,
there making
yeah.
a little bit of money
That's
too,
right,
you know.
right.
He's no slouch.
Sorry,
You go
sorry.
back to the days of the rack, there was players that were making.
Fast Teddy won. Did you ask that question originally? Reyes, as far as money won in tournaments? No. Who asked the question originally, and what do you mean by that question? Do you mean in a career as a professional, meaning tournaments and things, or do you mean overall when it comes to gambling and tournaments? Sean, 2003, Efren in his day did rob everyone. You're absolutely right.
In the late 80s, Buddy Hall won like 14 out of 16 tournaments.
Well, Nick Varner.
No, that was Nick Varner.
Nick Varner in '89.
Yeah, in '89, yeah.
Buddy Hall did too.
I don't think so. I don't think Buddy had a streak like that. That was Nick Varner. wasn't it?
No, Buddy didn't have a streak like that. Nick definitely,
Nick won an enormous amount. Yeah. And Nick's my choice as the best all-around player of all time. I mean, he's incredible.
Timmy's right here. He said he'd give you a bunch of weight for that bump.
What can I get playing bank?
Well, you can include gambling if you know about gambling to some degree, and you know the history of gambling. You're right. It's not directly quantifiable to decide a champion in the subject. You're right about that. But
tried to give him 8.
There's some inference you can make. Yeah, Jimmy Moore was strong. Jimmy Moore was very strong. Who had the most unusual nickname in pool? I'm not sure about that.
Dude, I was begging so bad
Still
last
be
night.
friends if you were one that's that.
Oh, we're still friends anyway.
That's a good one.
Fucking, I can,
Who do you think?
fucking just
The best nickname?
watch that last night when I seen you left it too. I was like, I just seen you looking at the wall by my door.
Okay, you guys are going to hate me. But I got to admit, it's the Black Widow.
Away from my hole.
It is.
Dude.
It's the best
That's it.
nickname.
He's gone, guys. We're taking the headsets off.
I know, but it is the best nickname that's ever existed in pool. It's the Black Widow. How are you going to do better than that? Really?
But she's Asian.
Okay, yeah.
Just kidding. What I'm saying is, like, really cool names.
You're not saying that's cool?
That's not cool. That's all right. That's
It's-
like okay.
but-
yeah, she kills people and she wears black all the time.
That's about as cool as it gets.
No.
Hell, she might have skull tattoos. I don't know.
Okay, we're done ripping on Jeanette. Let's go.
No,
to
I'm not. I'm not even ripping. I'm not even. I'm saying really that
Oh, you're
that's.
serious.
It's possibly the best. It's possibly the best nickname that there is. It says so much. The Black Widow. It says so much about whatever she does and whoever she is. It's enormous. I mean, can you give me another one there? That
Bunch of marketing money. So
it is. It's all about Well, somebody just said it's about marketing money, but of course it is.
have you been to the Bass Pro Shops and seen the Black Widow rooms? They're putting in all the Bass Pro Shops.
No, I haven't seen that. Huh?
I'm sitting in the Bass Pro Shops in Des Moines, Iowa. They have a Black Widow pool room with 2 diamond tables, 2 Black Widow diamond tables, Black Widow lights, Black Widow bar stools.
Fast
Black
Teddy
Widow
PM
tables,
me and
Black Widow
give me your
porch above the
contact
fireplace,
information. We'll trade
Black
some
Widow everything, Black
contact
Widow
information here and make sure we can
and
get
she paid
into
huge money for it,
each
actually.
other here after you
Alright.
come back from that.
No, okay, now hold on. Shannon the Doughboy, Dalton.
that's
Okay,
nice.
now you take those 2 words away, Shannon and Dalton. What does the Doughboy mean? What does that mean? The Black Widow has innate meaning. What I'm saying is, as a nickname, well, the cannon, sure, but that just means high offense. When it comes to a good nickname, I don't think you can beat the Black Widow. Who's got something better? It says so much. You don't even need the name of the player. You're talking about nicknames here. What does the Black Widow say?
Well, look at it this way. No one else has ever had their nickname marketed all over the country, all over the world.
No, I agree. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
They were just saying, what is the best nickname ever in pool? That's all they were saying.
Well, it depends again on how you.
Oh, the Magician. That's a good one.
Daddy
Fair
Warbucks.
enough. Efren Reyes. The Magician is a very good one. See, now the Magician, in and of itself, speaks to the game and speaks to his qualities in the game, as does the Black Widow. It's not necessarily just about some idiosyncrasy in the player themselves. It's about how good they play. And in fact, Kenny Mascot, I like that you said the rifleman, because actually that's incorrect. Buddy was named the rifleman when he was young, and he raced around the table and he fired a lot of balls in. And later in life, he became one of the greatest percentage players that has ever lived in 9-ball. And basically everyone in my generation learned his percentage play. So he got tagged with the rifleman before he became the player that he was.
Well, we're going back to, and this is what I was getting ready to ask, was what do we judge that on? Greatness, again,
Yeah. Right.
is it how cool it sounds, how fitting it is, or how menacing it seems to be? Kid Delicious, obviously, like so original that nobody can even think of
Well,
something that cool. And then you
it's
got guys
original,
like
but
Pretty Boy Floyd, whom is
well, that's pretty good. Pretty
he's
well,
he's
that's pretty
got
good.
he's got a great persona. Now the Hitman, the Terminator, all that, it's and I'm just talking about quality of what I think sounds great. If you were reading a newscast, the Kaiser, the
That's what
Hitman,
I'm
the
saying.
Terminator, and the
The
Black
Black
Widow.
Widow. I gotta go with the Black Widow there.
But if I say Kid Delicious is in the house, people want to know, like, wow, who's calling himself Kid Delicious, man? That's like out there. Like that's just such a radically
I understand.
crazy name.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it has any meaning necessarily that people can discern from it. Kid Delicious. What does that mean? Does that mean that he beats people? No,
I'm-
not necessarily.
Now that's
Or
what I'm
what-
getting at.
that-
Is that,
right.
like, we have to define what the parameters are of greatness. In other words,
Oh,
if
fair
it
enough.
sounds
Fair enough.
cool, that's a great name, like Tuscaloosa
Squirrel. Yeah.
Great
Tuscaloosa Squirrel.
sounding nickname.
What a great name, yeah.
Right? But meanwhile, who's afraid of a squirrel, right? But, in the meantime, guy was
But-
a great player.
But known as a one-pocket player, squirrely, making his way through that kind of makes sense.
Don't know.
Freddie the Beard.
Freddie the Beard.
Wimpy. See, now that's, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, that's actually a very good question. Luke CM. Better question is, who has best lived up to their nickname?
Now we're talking.
The Magician.
Okay. Now we're talking.
Efren Reyes.
Reyes.
I think that's
My
the answer.
nickname was Won't Bet a Burnt Book of Matches. I lived up to that pretty
Oh,
good.
beautiful. No, okay, that's it. I take JR. Who wants it? I'm giving 3-1. Just best. I just saw that. Somebody just called me Handsome Dan, or were you talking about Handsome Danny?
Handsome Danny Jones.
Because those
is
are
somebody
two different things.
Yeah,
Now that's funny. No, now here somebody says the Iceman Mika. All right, Joseph. Someone says the Iceman Mika. Now this is funny because Mika's a friend of mine, and the truth is he's very temperamental at the table. So I'm not really sure, and he's kind of got a reputation for being temperamental at the table. So I'm not really sure how the Iceman, apart from him being from Finland, got labeled onto him. Do you know where that started? Do you know where that came from?
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe it's because he seemed very stoic and cold when he played.
But he
But he
isn't
had-
really. He's
Yeah.
actually very temperamental.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where that nickname came from. I don't think it's necessarily fitting. I mean, obviously his success says that it's fitting, but persona-wise, I'm not sure it matches. Irving the Surgeon Crane. Oh, that's very nice. Oh. Chamberlain comes with Irving the Surgeon, and also, of course, the Deacon. The Surgeon's pretty sharp. I'm not sure I can beat that. For who's lived up to their name.
Machine Gun Lou, one of our folks out there mentioned that. That's a pretty
Nice.
good one.
Yeah, that's great, yeah. You know what, I think Chamberlain's right. I'm not sure I'm coming up with anybody who's better than the Deacon. For living up to, when he said Irving the Surgeon Crane. He really did play the game that way. It's pretty impressive.
Gene the Mighty Glove Catrone.
Luke CM, Crane was the Deacon. He was
Yes.
also the surgeon. I've heard that before also. So. And the deacon also works. I think the deacon's fantastic.
Yeah, he
So,
looked like a deacon.
He really did. And the way he played lived up to it.
Right. Well, I think he was a Cadillac salesman.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's right. Spent a lot of years at a dealership, didn't he?
Yeah, quite a few. Back when it was really cool to own a Caddy.
All right, I'm gonna pick JR's mind here for a second.
Right.
I apologize for cutting off the stream, but I'm gonna segue to something else. You guys can hear us. I was gonna say, who in their given discipline is the most impressive player you think you've ever seen? I know it's a tough question. I know there are many, but
Well, let's name some candidates. Bank pool, John Brumback. Straight pool,
or
John
Eddie
Martin.
Taylor, or Eddie Taylor.
Or Eddie Taylor, or Strawberry, say.
Straight pool.
Straight pool, you'd have to say, like that I've seen, Miserak, Hopkins, Remke.
Rempe doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Yeah. At the same time, you got to put Schmidt in there because he's considered that aficionado. One pocket, of course, you got to put an Efren in there.
Yeah.
9 ball, you got to put in Buddy Hall and Earl.
Most impressive in their given discipline.
Earl. To take a game that's so flighty, fly-by-night type of who determines how a 9-ball set is won, you know, and to be so dominant at times and to be so unstoppable. I mean, I've just seen, so many things, and I mean, we can put Scott Frost as one pocket. We can keep naming them, but honestly, if I said, "Hey, everybody, Scott Frost is going to be playing some one pocket tonight," that has a ring. But if I said, "Hey, Earl's playing some 9-ball," where does the crowd go? Where will they go? We know that they're going to go see Earl, and part of that might be because of the crazy antics that might follow, but still, he has the game to back it up. And I think why an Earl-Efren matchup is always such a favorite, the thing that makes it that way is because Efren is equally impressive at times in that discipline.
Right. Yes. You know what? I agree with that. I would say, 5 U.S. Open titles. He won the Worlds 1 or 2 times? Two times? Is that right?
I think it's 2 times.
It's 2 times?
5 U.S. Open and 2-time World.
Within the breadth of his career, that's unbelievable. For people that we saw, for people that we have personally witnessed is what we're talking about. So Mosconi and Willie Hoppy do not come into the equation. But yeah, I think you hit it right on the money. I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I can't come up with anybody better. In their own discipline. I can't come up with anybody better.
Right. It's kind of, yeah, I took a stab at it. I think I'm close enough to say that we can move on to the next topic.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's right.
Who's the
Shall we
best
have an
working man pool player right now, today? Who's the guy that holds down a 9 to 5 and still can run just basically take over a room if he enters it? Who is that guy?
It's a good question. I'm not real up to date on that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which of these good players wandering around that I'm afraid of that has a job and who doesn't. So.
There's some really good players that have, they've held down a job.
Well, Irving Crane, you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working man, pool
Yeah.
player.
Joe
Kenny
Balsas.
McClure. Yeah, Joe Balsas.
Absolutely. So modern day, go ahead.
Well, modern day, I'm not quite sure who we have there. I mean, who do we have anymore? Modern day, there's, the guys that make a living. I don't think they even come around for the money. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. I don't think they need to try for that at the moment.
Well, let's put it into perspective. The money that they were playing for, 2,500, 35, 40 years ago, 3,500. It would be equivalent maybe today to the $15,000 and $20,000 prizes that we've got.
Yep.
But there wasn't a lot of people playing the game at that point that were at that level. And I'm not sure whether these were always open titles. And, in other
A
words,
lot of the time they weren't.
you had
That's
to
right.
qualify, and you had to win a local
Yeah.
sponsored event and
That's
such.
true.
So you wouldn't always have a guy that was a working guy, maybe qualify year after
Yeah,
year.
you're right. Yeah.
So there's that.
I see Cookie Monster on there. Played him a couple times. Man. It was beautiful to watch him move. I'm glad I got to see him when he was still playing well. Oh, Lascotti. That's a good little answer there. I like that. Yeah, I think that Lascotti was. Well, now what would you say was Lascotti's discipline? That gets a little tough, doesn't it?
I thought
Straight
it was
pool?
straight pool.
Do you have to say straight pool? Right. And so if you compare him with the other straight pool players of his generation, he doesn't keep up ultimately. But he was more of an all-around player, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, was Petey Margot somebody that I know that he ran a pool room in Brooklyn?
Petey Margot, he had a lot of high runs in straight pool.
Yeah, he was. You grow up
Supposedly over 600 stuff. Who knows? I don't think it's.
It's funny they typed it in there right as I was saying it.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat. And the reason I say that is I think that he disappeared because he worked. Like
Yeah.
the reason that we
Yeah.
didn't see Petey in the 80s was because he was working, and that's why I said that. Is I wanted to see. I read about Petey Margot, and I wanted to see him play, and they're like, "Well, he isn't playing anymore," and I'm like, "Why?" And I always was under the impression that he went back to work. So
We're still on the question of. I just saw somebody type there. What is the exact question? We are still on the question of who was the best that we have ever seen ourselves in their given discipline.
I thought we went beyond that one. We kind of gave it to Earl.
Oh, did we? Oh,
Yeah, we're on the working man pool player.
oh, you're right. Working man pool player. You're right. Sorry. We did move on to that. Colavina? I like that sling blade. Colavina's not bad.
Jack Colavita would be, definitely one of the guys that you would have to consider.
will tell you Efren is the best. Will also tell you that for many reasons he's the best. So I'm not really sure how that balance works out with him.
Right.
Eddie SRP. Efren says Siegel is one of the best. Efren said two things in that interview was, if I remember correctly, he said that the smartest pool player he'd ever known was Nick Varner, and that the best competitor he'd ever played against was Mike Siegel. I think that's the same interview, isn't it?
I don't know.
So he wasn't flat out saying the best ever. Period. There were some qualifications. Hello, ladies. Have things gone here for a second? We have to step away for a moment. And they're giving discipline. Somebody else say Eddie Taylor for bank pool? That should come to my mind immediately. I'm surprised it didn't. Drain Boy says DiLiberto. Well, what are you saying that? What are you saying that his specific discipline was?
5-ball lead. Couldn't keep it.
It's because you refused to shoot in them 9-ball shots.
I shot all the shots I could. What goes the score?
1-1.
Where's the one?
2.
We started, what, 6 hours ago?
I don't know.
That first set. Slow race.
Yeehaw!
Is that a foul?
No.
Oh, no. I don't play enough one pocket to know, man.
Well, same, it's all games. 1 ball. Nine, 1 ball should have rail either cue ball after contact. That's all.
But only 1 ball hits a rail.
Deuce ball hit 2.
Huh?
Deuce ball hit 2, but it doesn't make a difference. I mean, 1 ball is illegal.
Any
Right.
ball.
Any ball, or either the object ball or the cue ball after contact.
I see.
He just played the avalanche break there. Oh, that's not good. I think they're ignoring the feed at the moment. They're into their own chat. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did play the avalanche break. I got 2 in a row. Cue ball has to hit a rail after contact. There's a reason for that rule in 1 pocket because of this. And when the good players get good at this, it makes the game one-dimensional. Machichi, the cue ball does need to hit a rail after contact on the break in 1 pocket. And all the best 1 pocket players recognize that, and that's the reason why they all shoot identical break shots, where you try to split the top 2 balls, run the cue ball down, and come up. If you can just do this, as I know it, called the avalanche break, where you just kick into the back of the stack, open them up like this, and leave the ball there, it becomes kind of ridiculous. Getting a lot of posts on the cue ball doesn't have to hit the rail. In all of major tournament one pocket, the cue ball does have to hit a rail. Kick break isn't a foul, Jumpin' Joe won, as long as you live up to the standards of contact. See, now here's a problem where the BCA handbook is incorrect, according to the players who play the game. All of the good one-pocket players in the world would rather play that the cue ball has to make contact to a rail. The BCA handbook says that it doesn't, and the BCA handbook is wrong because all of the best players in the world recognize that that's a fault, and the game should not be played that way. High run 3-1-1. They both have the same opening break rules. And what are those? Triple Smart D, you're right. Anytime you gamble, what you don't agree to personally is defined by the book. What I'm talking about is what is correct in tournament play, meaning all of the best players, and what do they agree on. And none of the best players kick break at the stack. None of them, because they all agree that that is not the way one pocket is played. Everyone hits the top two balls and slides down. You occasionally get someone who wants to go a little deeper than that, but it's very uncommon. Jumpin' Joe, but what they agree on is not the rules. Actually, I have been at a couple of different one-pocket tournaments where the people who are running the tournament attempt to induce the BCA rules, and the major players in the game, including Nick Varner, Jose Perica, guys like that, stood up and said, no, done. We are not playing if you play by those rules. The cue ball needs to hit a rail after contact. I've been at 2 or 3 of those tournaments where that's happened. You can't play legitimately in one pocket off the break unless the cue ball has to hit a rail after contact. It gets a little silly. Everyone kicks into the stack. Everyone gets open balls by their pockets. Everyone sticks the cue ball in the back. It's so monotonous that it's meaningless. And that's why none of the good players want to play that way. You would see it happening in gambling all the time if it wasn't accepted. It's accepted as a rule among all the good one-pocket players that the cue ball has to hit a rail after contact. Russell. Oh, Rust Belt Lunatic. Only gambling rules matter. Guess what? As I just said, in gambling, everyone hits those first 2 balls and runs the cue ball to the end rail. Otherwise, more players would kick to the back of the stack. The kick break is recognized as illegitimate, even among gambling one-pocket players. I understand the BCA rules do not agree with that, but the BCA rules are flawed in that, and they should be changed.
here, folks.
All right, so here we are at the Derby City Classic. J.R. Calvert, myself, Daniel Wallace. And we're watching a little bit of action here.
I don't know what they're really playing.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah.
You know, we're getting that they're playing race to 2 for 300. That's at the top of the chat, and our moderators are fairly good and fairly accurate at that type of information. So that must be what's going on.
All right, one more word to this. Look, you take 2 high-level one-pocket players, and whoever wins the first break, if they kick to the back of the stack, the other guy says, I'm not playing. Forget it. Done. The gambling ends. No one plays that way, gamblers or tournament, that the cue ball doesn't have to contact a rail. And I'm sorry, you may have seen something different, but that is the fact. Nobody does that. Everyone plays that the cue ball has to hit a rail. Well, there you go. That was the noise, Mark Haddad passing by.
Looks like John is contemplating a pretty interesting shot here. He may be shooting at his hole, the way he's looking. I think he's supposed to be looking at 1 or 2 things in here in his stack.
It's hard to control shooting a 3 ball. The 3 ball top of the stack, is that the 3 or the 7? No, 3 is top of the stack. It's hard to control using spin to hit the 3 and then the 11 to head to the side rail and not leave a shot on that 10. Mm-hmm. That's the only way from here I think you can spread balls toward his pocket. So I think he's gonna hit that 10 out of there.
That's the odds-on shot. That's why I was confused why he was actually even looking at the stack.
That's a nice shot. Yeah, that's the right shot. Good 3-wheel. Yeah. Pull the cue ball back. Had to hide it.
This 12 or getting behind it after a hit unless he comes off this 1.
I don't think so. You have the 4 ball there, but you can't come off of that because you're running straight into the 12.
You see what I mean? He can
was
come
that the
off the 1 and
13?
float in behind the 12 here.
Yeah.
2 rails, 1 rail. One of the ways out of a break shot. Looks like he's going high, down table or something.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like he's banking a 1 towards his side and putting the cue all the way on the other side.
Okay,
This I don't agree with.
I don't get that at all.
Well, even if he just goes ahead and slaps this next ball down in that
Oh,
hole,
he doesn't have to. He just shoots the 10. He just floats the 10 on down there and gets a free shot.
I wouldn't shoot the 10. Yeah, the 10. I guess
Yeah, he just gets a free
that's
shot
the one
there.
that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You and I are talking about the same ball. I thought
Okay, okay.
that ball that's real close to the cue ball is the 10 ball. This is a freebie here. Heyday, huh? Well, I'll fill this question for a second. Have we seen our heyday? We've seen a few heydays.
Yeah, we've seen a few of them. Generationally speaking, we've seen a few.
Yeah, well, The Color of Money and The Hustler caused a craze, both of them. That made people deduce that we always needed another movie in the 90s, and I thought, wow, how many jump starts do we need? And maybe it still is the case, is that we need Tom Cruise to maybe come back and make another movie, because really what it came down to was they were 25 years apart. It's been 26 years since the other. I mean,
All right, that's right.
Actually 27 years now, but we're at the stage where we're welcome to have another movie come along here. It doesn't have to be a Martin Scorsese, but it does have to be somebody with name that's in the movie, kind of like a Tom Cruise, and it makes sense since, the pattern's already there ahead of us. Is that the only thing that we have? No. I still am a firm believer is that what we did is we squandered those opportunities and never got to television. And one was, I don't have any clue why we didn't make it to television in the 60s. But I can say that why we didn't make it to television in the late 80s and early 90s, maybe with the advent of the internet, so to speak, we're in a stage where the internet's going to be more what you use your television for in the future, and that's going to be the future of our sport. And we're not talking productions maybe like this that you're seeing now. We're talking about more major productions. And I understand there's some. We could probably go down through 4 or 5 pool movies that made people either, wince or inspire them to play. But everybody kind of agrees that The Hustler and The Color of Money kind of stand out.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
we need a caliber movie like that. I don't know whether I want to rely on anybody but Tom Cruise in that movie. And it's sad, but that's really kind of where we're at. That trilogy has to be made. So, I'm not really sure, but I can say that we have a chance with the internet, and there just might be a heyday ahead of us. What it's going to take is probably somebody to come along with a package that takes us into a major sport scientifically. And what I mean by that is, right now, the big sports are the spectator sports, folks. You really get down to it, NFL, you get into the NASCARs. These are the people that have, millions and millions of spectators. Why? Well, they've developed them, and they have a good format, and
Certainly.
they have money to put into production to keep up with the times, and at the same time, they're exciting sports. Right now, you're watching one of the things that people would say would never go on television. What is this, Game 3? Game 2? Okay, yeah, it might not last in a 42-minute program. People bunting balls around. No, probably wouldn't be one pocket. At the same time, we need to figure out how to make spectators out of our participants. We have participation. Trust me, we have it. I've seen it. There were thousands of people that came through the doors here. Most of them were participants. Why were there more participants, arguably, than spectators? Well, to be quite truthful, it's not as prestigious because television. Well, if television will beget more viewers, I mean, it becomes prestigious. You don't brag to your friends that you went to a place where only 3 people went and thought that it was important. You want thousands of people. Like, for instance, if you go to a Green Bay Packers game or a NASCAR as opposed to going to a pool tournament, what's the difference? Your friends don't know who Efren Reyes is, but they do know who Glenn Rogers,
Aaron Rodgers.
or Aaron Rodgers, and they do know who, Kyle Petty is. They know who Dale
That's true.
Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah.
is. They know tons of drivers, and it's through marketing. That is where we're at. That's where we're at. We need to turn people to watch this. So some genius has to come along, figure out what's going to make people love to watch pool that don't play it. Because out of this, another thing to layer in there is while you watch the NASCAR races and while you watch the football game, how many people have put the pads on and how many people, fire up a car with, 600 horsepower and fly around the track going 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They watch it for certain reasons. Well, maybe it's emotions that we go after. Obviously everybody likes to have the emotion of
thrill,
power
yeah.
and the thrill. So, and obviously there's the weird emotion of what if somebody dies type of thing going on with NASCAR. We don't want that in pool, obviously, because that really is weird. That just wouldn't lend itself. But I could say, we do have something that's kind of interesting. Is we could try to do something along the lines of power, and I'm not sure whether there's any format that we can say would be better for us to look at as to how did people or why do people watch poker? Why? Because they want to be the best. They want to imagine that it's them making the millions of dollars. So short of money, we also know that people daydream about pool. They want to feel that they're the best.
No,
So
that's true.
There's that. And trust me, folks, I'm spitballing here. I have nothing. I mean, I could think about this all day long, and there's nothing. And that's where the brick wall is, and that's why I'm saying we need a genius. That genius is, most likely not going to be me unless I fall and hit my head in the tub and something comes to me, my unconscious, while I'm unconscious.
Ivory Soap, my siren song.
Yeah, one of the things that I think about poker is the reason people watch it is they kind of get the illusion that anybody could be drawing these cards, that anybody could do this, and that they could be winning millions of dollars with the right hand at the right time. Now, are they actually, is that dollar for dollar what's in the pot as what they will win? No, it's not. From what I understand, there's more, you're given more chips many times in tournaments than what you buy in for. So the buy-in might be, $1,000 and you're given $10,000 worth of chips. Okay, well that blows things out of proportion. But when they don't tell you that when you're watching a tournament, so they say, well, it looks like he's betting 30,000. He isn't betting 30,000. So now that you're already, they've got the hook in you, and they're waiting for the flop, and they're waiting for this and that, and they're putting the percentages up, and you get to see the whole cards. Uh, there's multiple things, but let's face it, within 3 minutes, somebody's going to win a couple of $100,000. That's exciting. That's exciting, and that's what we need, is people winning money, and a tournament to be decided with where you don't just have 2 lives. See, that's what we're dealing with, is this double elimination, single elimination thing, where you only have 2 lives. So therefore, we have to spread your life over a tournament with 2 lives, where poker players, they determine their own life. If they want to just go by and let the big blind and everything else go, kind of whittle away and stay out of pots and just keep folding, heck, and honestly, you don't even have to show up. You just have to go ahead and keep. You literally can just put a hat there and say, "Hey, I'm here," and just take the money out. Each time the blind comes around to me. Seriously, that's one of the things that we need, is the fact that we need to be able to, in a 42-minute show, maybe show people winning hundreds of thousands of dollars multiple times, even though it might not be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not what they really win, because we know they can lose it all the next hand. So there's a little bit of, the ring game, which is something that I had preached to some players years ago, and it did get put into play, but it hasn't really taken off. Is that you have the money ring game and everything else. We do it here. We've done it 1 or 2 other places, and Texas Hold'em poker even, or billiards even happen. But what we need is something where Dad can be sitting there with Junior, and they can watch in 42 minutes guys making great shots and winning $50,000 or $60,000 in their mind, and then turning around and saying, "Wow, Junior, do you want to play pool?" And he says, "Sure, Dad." And Dad doesn't feel so bad, because he thinks, "Man, that guy just made in 13 seconds more than I made last year." And that's what poker has right now. And they're grabbing our players with online play too. And when I say our players, I mean pool players, whether they're young, old, or any age. So there's a lot of that going around, and that's just one of my theories.
The tarantula, sorry. You're trying to catch my attention there, or I was gone for a minute?
I think the tarantula is trying to call you out in California.
Most arrogant pool players are stuck on poker. Is there any woman you wouldn't play even? Well, right now, yeah, there are a whole lot of them. But when I was playing full time, I'm not sure. I don't think. No, I don't think so. Tarantula said I should read above. Should I, or?
Well, it's easier for you to repost tarantula.
Yeah. It moves pretty fast, so. Well, this is positive. Yeah, JR's right. He's right about a lot.
I don't know about that. I'm just really convincing. Not really. Been in the sport 30 years, folks. I don't think I know it all. Don't think I've seen it all. I do have an opinion, and I love to have them shot full of holes, because that's what's going to eventually, make us better. But I can say this. We need to figure this out as quick as possible. Because
I agree.
There's a timer, and the sports that figure out what they need to do to entice the internet audience in the next year or two, those are the ones that will survive the purge. And the purge,
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
and I mean, seriously, I can hardly wait for a day when the NFL announces that it will not make an agreement with a network broadcast company, but intend to launch it on their own network, and you'll only be able to access that network through their network, so to speak. That's going to be the day. And you know what? I don't think we have a decade of network broadcasting still in there. Well, Miller Timea, I really don't post there too much. I'll be honest. What I do is, honestly, we're somewhat competitors. Even though I used to have an internet forum, I pulled it, and I want AZ to be the kind of the forum is, and I don't think they saw it that way, but that's kind of how I want it to be. Now, I don't go on there and promote my own stuff, and I don't really have a lot of time, believe it or not, to kind of keep up with that thread. But by all means, you have my permission to feel free to go out and look at what I just said, and I'll be posting this soon, and maybe put it out there and start the thread yourself. Anybody that wants to start it can. You're listening to this, and there's not a thread at the time that you listen to it, and you want to, go ahead. Put it out there. And I think that what we'll find is there's probably some holes in my theories.
Yeah, well,
there always is. And
I have the same holes in mine. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But I can say this: I think I'm really close. I think I am.
And I'm going to cut out here for about 2 minutes. But if anyone wants, for about 2 minutes, remember. So if anyone wants to direct a question right at me, I'm more than happy to answer anything you want to ask. Sometimes the thread gets a little convoluted. Like, what question am I really answering here? So yeah, if you want to direct something just to me, I'll be back in about 2-3 minutes, and I will gladly answer those.
The one thing I do know, the pool is a very me sport. It's one of those things where people would much rather watch lessons with their, television than be entertained. And what's so funny is, even with some of the, and I will very rarely mention competitors, and I don't even consider ourselves competitors, but we do both turn on cameras. But with AccuStat videos, how many times have you heard somebody say, I think it's great to watch and learn? They don't just say watch, they want to learn at the same time, right? Very few people are entertained by this sport right now, and I think that there are people. Yes, this is JR, I'm sorry. There are people that could be entertained if we had a different format. Does it involve safety play? Oh, man. I think all good sports have defense, but it needs to be in moderation. They need to be, there needs to be something that can trump really good defense so that it's played in good cause. And it might be the jump cue, I don't know. But the other thing that I want to see or want to say is we need to make sure that people can advance in tournaments, they can play in tournaments, they can play in something that's so shoot that some of the better players might not like it. And I'm going to go here for a second. Let's examine this for a second. Pool is a game of skill. We all agree about this. And again, I'm spitballing, and I'm just throwing an idea out there for us all to talk about it in the chat. A lot of times the rules are come up, and let's use the push rule as an example. Push rule was developed so that players thought that the better player would win. And, shame on us. we never really developed a rule that was meant for people to be spectators. We developed it so that we made our market smaller and smaller, and we had no thought on the fact that we wanted people to watch, and we generally had no thought on whether we wanted people to play that didn't maybe weren't or win that weren't the best player. Why do we keep making rules that guarantee the best player wins? And why do we keep making rules that guarantee that people almost won't watch? Well, that's it. That's our problem right now. We're rolling ourselves out of a market. And what I'm saying is this format that we may eventually come to, that some genius is going to decide upon, may seem like the craziest, stupidest game ever. Anybody can win that. Well, guess what? That's what we need. We need guys that have to be able to pocket balls now. Come on. They have to be able to play a little bit, but they have to be lucky. And that's what we need more, is that uncertainty. And, that's a big problem that we have, and why only pool players want to watch tournaments is that we've put ourselves into positions where, and I'll say it again, we make rules to make sure that the best player wins, and we don't make rules to make sure that people watch. Maybe we should consider that. And one of probably a good example of this is the jump cue. People ask me about it every day. What about this jump da 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 da? Well, let me kind of put it this way. Golfers have 18 clubs. Why aren't pool players allowed to have 3 cues? Right? And let's face it, it takes away defense and it puts a massive, offensive out there. And I'm going to make a statement that I have very few times made. I started this game because of Earl Strickland. I'm sitting in this seat right now because of Earl Strickland, folks. Earl Strickland was playing Steve Miserak, and you can go to my YouTube channel to see the little YouTube clip that I watched for the first time in my life. I found it about 3 months ago, and I was amazed that somebody had put this on YouTube for me. And it was the exact segment that I watched when I was a kid, and I saw Earl get hid, and he jumped the ball and made it against Miz and went on to beat Miz at the Caesars Tahoe tournament. And I said, this is the game for me. And let's be on the weirdness and maybe the kind of cool thing that all the stories and things you can. As a kid, you couldn't have kept me away from this game once I saw a jump shot. We need kids in this game. We need everybody thinking that there's all these cool things that they can do. Whether it's massays, all that stuff. We need some type of offensive game that lets the money flow and lets people that might not be the better player win. Okay. So I've laid out a premise. I've inundated everybody.
No, it ain't no scratch.
I'm going to turn down these guys' mic just a hair. I know that they're starting to talk a little bit more now.
Back here on the mic. Pinball is back on here. You got me for about 20 minutes, I think. Maybe turn it in.
Sounds good. Why don't we hear from you for a little bit here? McGordy. Truth. Yeah. I remember McGordy. I read a bunch of books. Well, a bunch of books. I found like 6 books maybe when I was younger. The library had them and you rented them out. And, yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
Like I say, if you direct anything straight at me, how to let me know. Then, I'll answer anything for here, 20 minutes. About 15 minutes, I'll ramble on.
Somebody made a point that snooker's popular in England with no luck factor. And I agree. I mean, there's, like I said, I'm spitballing here. But I'm saying if we look at what's out there, there's still a little bit of luck. But then again, look at football, look at basketball. Luck always plays a factor in a little bit, but they still love skill.
Absolutely. And skill still wins out on luck. In every format, there's an all reason. Skill wins out on luck.
Yeah. You shouldn't lose because a card flips over, and you shouldn't win because a card flips over. And honestly, but that's the way it is with poker.
Somebody said they couldn't hear me. I'm doing a little bit better now.
There you
Am
go.
I doing good here? Yeah. Oh, there it is. I'm doing a little bit better now.
You had the mic on, but that darn
Yeah.
producer JR forgot to
Yeah, that's all right.
turn the mute off. That's me.
Like I said, a couple people asked me questions just before I left there for a minute. I'd say you got 15, 20 minutes. If anybody wants to direct something straight at me, I'll answer away. And otherwise, I'll just go ahead and gaze at the thread here and come up with whatever I come up with.
And yeah, there's a good point there where gambling can affect a sport's popularity.
Well, that's true. That's very true. Yes.
I mean, honestly,
Well,
I
pool.
think people would
I'd
still
say-
watch horses run around the circle because they're a majestic animal.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be as interested.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
And hey, playoffs are not any different than the rest of the season for the NFL.
Right.
Not any different, except that in playoffs they pump a ton of money into gambling. Everybody does.
Right.
And trust me, I'm a football fan. I know this. The people who are serious about just watching football, pure and simple, with no gambling, the numbers go down dramatically.
Some people were asking me what my degrees are in mechanical aerospace and industrial engineering, manufacturing engineering as well. I was a crazy guy. Before I got into pool, well, I took some time off and decided to get some degrees, and then went crazy again and decided to say, hey, the heck with those degrees. I like pool better. But as hard as I worked for the game of pool, in a matter of 3 years, I earned a few engineering degrees there. But I was young, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And then got away from it, and then came back, and in 19 finished out my school.
Rack'em Sucker, I say go pack. But besides that, Bob Callahan, we of course like pool because of the skill. Joe America would like it better if it were more random, involving more luck. Well, I think that's what you were just saying. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to give you an idea why are handicap events popular, more popular, is a guy with lesser skill can win, right?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But, at the same time, bowling has it right, is that no matter how good you are, if they can quantify it, then what they do is they only give, say you're a 300 bowler, and you're playing a guy who's a 210. You don't have to give him the whole 90 points. You only give him a portion of the points.
Exactly right.
It
Exactly
always
right.
favors the better
It
player.
always favors a better player because of the dedication they have to the game and what they've attempted to accomplish. But it still gives the weaker player a chance.
Sure.
I agree with that entirely.
Now we're getting this pull 300. I don't know whether it's somebody trying to, market their game or what, but I'm interested. Show us what you got here, pull 300. We're an open forum in that department.